Hi everyone, this is just a short video to cover what's involved in Assessment 2, which is to assess your knowledge on the Linux commands that you've been learning over the past couple of weeks. So first of all, to find the assessment for the HND software, it's on Moodle. If you go to week 7, there's a folder, and inside that there is a submission link. So the assessment is actually attached to the submission link. So if you click on this link, it's currently hidden, but obviously it'll be made available for you next week. So if you click on the link, you'll see in the description of the assessment, there is the actual assessment instruction document. So if you click and download this document, then you will see all of the instructions that are required for the assessment. So this is the document here. So the document basically just starts off with explaining that this is to assess you on outcome 2. And this is the list of skills that the SQA are looking for you to be able to give evidence that you can apply the majority of these skills where available in a virtual environment using your Linux commands. So you have to carry out all of the instructions in this document. They'll all be done using the command line environment. So just what we've been doing over the past few weeks, logging into your shell. It's an open book assessment, so you are able to refer to any of your notes, and you can also use the man pages in Linux as well. What I would advise you do before you start is go and get the 2 crib sheets that you've been issued with that are also on Moodle for week 6. So the 2 crib sheets you've been given, you've got one for the VI or Vim editor that gives you a summary of all the commands to use the editor, and the other one is a full command crib sheet. So this is a list of pretty much all of the commands we've covered, or all the main commands that you'll need. Now the thing to note about this is you'll see that the commands are grouped in tables based on the week they were presented. So if, for instance, you want to find out more about, say, the touch command, then if you can't remember much about it, then go and look at the week 3 slides. So that'll hopefully give you a quick pointer as to where to go and get the information. So good idea to have those crib sheets open and beside you when you're going through this. So you're required to complete all of the tasks that form part of this assessment. Once you've done so and you submit it, it will be marked, and anything that is incorrect, you'll be given the opportunity for remediation. So it will be returned to you, and you'll be given some feedback, and you'll be given the chance to make an attempt at that particular task again. It's very important that you follow these tasks in the order that they're presented to you, because some of the tasks later on rely on you having completed the steps at the start of the assessment. So please do not complete these steps out of order. As you work through the steps, you're going to see 2 symbols throughout the tasks. You've got the pencil symbol, which means that you have to write down the command that you typed in to perform the task. You've got to write that command down on your log sheet. Log sheet is at the end of this document. I'll show you that in a second. The other symbol you need to look out for is this computer symbol, which means that you need to do a screen capture and paste it into a Word document. So quick scroll down to show you the log sheet. So down the very end, you'll see is the log sheet. Now each task as you go through it has got a number beside it, and then in the log sheet that number is repeated with a brief summary of the task. So as you go through, please write your commands in this log sheet, in this table. You will be submitting this document once you've completed it. The screenshots are required basically as evidence that you have actually executed the commands. So the screenshots are going to be put into a separate document. So you need to create a separate Word document. If you're not sure how to do a screenshot, I'll just do a quick demonstration. So here's, for instance, my login screen. So if I go into Word, now as I said, you'll create a new separate document. If you go into the insert, screenshot, and then screen clipping, you can then successfully draw around your window and it'll automatically insert it. So I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do the screenshots. So it's a combination of filling in the commands in the table and also creating the screenshots as you're asked to as you go through the assessment. Once you finish the assessment, as it says here, you'll upload this document that you've got all your commands written in the table, and you'll also upload your separate document that contains all your screenshots. Can I ask that you just put a maximum of 2 screenshots in a page, just so that they're big enough and clear enough that we can actually see the text that's on them. And also, can you make sure that each screenshot is labelled with its associated task number? So you'll see as you go through the document that each of these wee screenshots has got a task. So for instance, for this one, you would label it task 1, just to make it easier for us to mark them. Okay. So now let's have a look at the actual assessment itself. So at the top, if you fill in your name, please, and then you're ready to start the assessment. So as I said, the steps need to be followed in order. Each step's numbered. For example, this first step says, describe what actions you have to carry out in order to be ready to log into the environment. So how do you launch the environment that you're using to execute your Linux commands? And it's got the pencil symbol, which means that you have to write your response in the log sheet. So you would scroll down to the end, to the log sheet, find number 1, and again it gives you a wee reminder of what the task was, and then put your answer in there. It then asks you to take a screenshot of that login screen, which is just what I've showed you. I've demonstrated that, and you would paste that into your separate Word document and you would label it with task 1. This is important. Please make sure that for this assessment you are logged in as the root user. The reason for that is because later on in the list of steps you will be asked to do some process manipulation, and you will only have permission to do that if you are the root user. Initially it asks you to clear the history, and then you obviously need to write down the command that you used to do that again. So that will go in beside number 2 in your log sheet. So you'll come down here into the table, and in here enter the command that you used to clear the history. The next step is quite a big step. So this one is about initially setting up a directory structure, and this directory structure and the files will be used throughout the rest of the assessment. So you need to create the following directory structure, including the files, and we want you to do this from your current location. So what we mean by that is, when you log in, and I'll just do that right now. So if I log in as root and password, by default when you log in as root, if I just print my working directory, you're automatically placed in /root. Do not change into a different directory unless you're asked to do so. So in other words, to create this directory structure, you will be needing to create, for instance, my home directory, my docs, my reps, my SS. So there's lots of directories to create. So I'm just going to demonstrate how you would create one of these full paths. So let's say I want to create the my home directory, and underneath that my docs, and then underneath that my reps. Now this is in your slide pack how to do this. So make dir, so I'm not changing into a new location, I'm staying in the location I am. So do not use the cd command to change directory until you're asked to move into another directory. So I'm going to say make dir, and I want to make my home, and then under that my home, and then under that I want to create my docs, and then under that my reps. Now at the moment this will only work if I switch on one of the options. Because this directory structure doesn't currently exist, it can only create the directories one at a time unless I use the -p option. And again, this is in the slides. So that basically says if the directories in this path don't exist, then create them. So now I hit return, and it should have created that full path So for ls, you can see there's my home. If I have a look at what's in my home, you can see it's got my docs. If I look at what's in my home / my docs, then you can see it's got my rep. So it's created that full path. The important point to make here is the makedir command that I used. I had to use the full path name because I couldn't change directories. So I can't makedir my home and then do cd my home and then makedir my docs. Okay, you have to stay in the original location until you're asked to change directory. So it'll take you a wee while to set up this structure. And then once it's set up, you need to go out, you need to create the files within directories. And again, here it asks you what commands you use to complete part of the task. So the command to use to create the MySS directory, the one used to create the news.doc, and the one used to create the archive subdirectory. So you create the entire structure that's in this picture, and then you only have to record the commands used for some of the tasks. You don't need to record everything you did. At this point here, it's now saying now move to the archive directory. So at this point, you can change directory and follow the instructions. So again, just follow them step by step. And as I said, it's really important to do them in order because they do rely on previous steps having been completed. There's your second screenshot. So basically at this point, you're doing an ls to show that things have been correctly created and you're screenshotting that for evidence. So I asked you to do some renaming, copying, moving files, again, moving directories, all stuff that you've done over the past few weeks. The next bit I'm going to look at is at this point here, you're asked to create a file containing text. At this stage, I appreciate that some people will find using the VI editor quite challenging. So if you want to create the file using just the cat command, then that's fine. If you find that easier, then I don't mind you doing that. Okay, so you've got the option here. You're not being tested in how the file has been created. Once the file is created, you then have to use VI to edit the file. So at this point, you are required to launch VI and use the VI editor to edit the file as it states in these instructions. Okay, same again here when you've at this stage when you've to create another file. Again, I'm happy if you want to use just the cat command to create the file. I don't mind, you're not being tested in how the file is created. Okay, I'm just going to keep scrolling down. So all this other stuff straightforward. Deleting files now, and then we move on to some process manipulation. So remember, when you're doing the process manipulation, we're using the sleep 60 command in order to give us time to look at the process running. So sleep 60 will basically run for 60 seconds. If you find that you're maybe a wee bit slower and you need a bit more time and that the time's running out, the 60 seconds isn't long enough, then I'm happy for you to increase that time. So if you want to increase it to sleep 120, whatever length you need in order to complete the tasks while the process is running, that's absolutely fine. So there's a few process manipulation tasks. We then come down to creating a new user. So we can do some communication commands. So when you create the new user, you may have already, through doing previous activities, you might already have a user called user2. If you do, just change it to another name, okay, that's available that you haven't already used. So if you've already used user2, change it to something else. And make sure you then use that user for the rest of the commands. So this basically gets you to send an email, and it's just checking that you can use the mail facilities. And then once you get to the very end, that's you, log out, shut down, make sure you've recorded everything in here. So each of the commands for each step should be written into the table. Save this document and upload it using the same submission link, and also upload your separate document that contains your screenshots. So if we go back to Moodle, you'll have a submission link here. It'll look slightly different than what I can see. So you'll be able to upload both of those. If you've got any questions, then you can let me know. Hopefully that helps clarify a few things, but I will be available for questions as well.